This is the Workplace Ninja podcast, coming to you live from our summit in Baden with highlights, insights, and interviews.
So, good afternoon. Back. New people on the table with a new conversation. So, a lot of new people because Thomas, you weren't here before, and Fabian also. Who do I have on the table? Peter.
I'm back.
Everyone is knowing him already. Thomas, you are?
I'm Thomas Kurth. I'm working in Switzerland as a security consultant at Baden. Yeah.
Basically that. Fabian from Germany?
Yeah, I'm from Germany, Hamburg. I work as a cybersecurity architect at Glückania.
Glückania. And Sami?
Hi, Sami Laiho.
From?
Microsoft MVP from Finland.
Finland.
Security Ninja, right?
If you wish.
Yes,
you can't tell anyone.
No, sorry.
Yeah, that was no. Let it be. But you were here as a speaker because Fabian also. You're wearing both green shirts. I'm not a speaker, but I have one.
So you got one anyway.
Yeah,
that's cool.
They managed that for me, so that was good. Basically, you had a session today. Was it today?
Yes.
It was hard to get you on the table.
Yeah, I know. I'm a hard to get person in. I got meetings with customers that want me to do architecting meetings, and basically I'm always away, which means that I'll take the hours from the morning or lunch or afternoon for them, so I'm playing hard to get. But yeah, I had a session this morning 9 o'clock, and I have another one tomorrow 9 o'clock.
And that session from today, what was that about?
That was kind of a keynote level State of the Union talk about security in previous years and how to prepare for future.
Yeah, we had a talk with some security guys already, with Matthias and Stefan, but also today about privileged access workstation, with Sergey about pen testing, red teaming, and so on. So if we look at the past, what was the most important thing within cybersecurity?
Well, if you look at purely statistics, then for the past decade or so, the biggest threat for companies has been phishing, which means basically fixing it with MFA. And now we should give ourselves a tap on the back and be happy that we actually managed to do something, because for the past 2 years, phishing has not been the most threatful thing out there anymore. Instead of that, for the past 2 years, most ransomware has gotten into companies through unpatched vulnerabilities. So now I'm trying to tour the world and tell people, and especially their managers, that we actually have to just patch more and test less.
How's that in Switzerland, Thomas? As a cybersecurity consultant, helping customers moving into that area?
I mean, one thing is really the attack itself, but I think the bigger problem is more or less the knowledge which is missing at the customers. So, I mean, the phishing attack, yes, is a high risk. We see a lot of them. But my biggest problem is that I see a lot of customers which are just not aware what is going on, what they should do. And that's at the end.
But it's multiple levels, right? With the end users, but also in the IT staff and the security department.
And we can't get budget because the problem is that if you look at the same statistics, then the past few years, only 3% of cybersecurity attack victims actually came public with that attack, which means that it would be a lot easier for us to get budget to do something if there was knowledge about what the actual threat is like, because even though we have GDPR, which basically should fine you after 72 hours of not disclosing, yet still we only managed to get a few percent of victims to go out public with this. So it just makes our lives really hard. It's easier to get money if you see your neighbor being attacked, so you look out the window and say that, oh, my neighbor there, they got attacked, so I know it. But as we don't have any bigger picture, it's really hard.
This has a big impact. I mean, if you see your competitor was attacked, but it's really hard to talk about your own attacks. I mean, we had a CFO which had a financial fraud at the end. Nobody should know it. And the IT also was not allowed to get really help. They were then talking about adding SMIME because it's something to do with email security, but I mean, at the end, it's not really a solution to.
No.
Now the email is just more credible because it's encrypted.
Yep. So,
Exactly.
but that's knowledge.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on this topic. Yeah.
Yeah, and if of course if you're hacked, you can't be proud about that. But I often sometimes see that people are sharing their experience. Like I think Maersk is a really good example. They share their experience, how it happened, how they might have might have done a better job in not getting affected.
I think that's the key here. I mean, I always tell my customers that you should think about the fact that if a bank gets robbed, no one's going to blame the bank. But in our industry, there's a huge stigma on this, and we need perfection, and we can't be weak. I always tell people that if I teach speakers, I always tell them that you have to understand that the only safe form of comedy is self-irony. And I mean, that's the best thing also to get to be credible. I mean, when we had Uri Geller was bending spoons, he didn't become famous before he failed. I mean, I think it's easier to approach people if you're willing to also not try to be better than anyone, but also talk about what you did bad and what you should learn about. Jeremy Moskovich did a good job on, like, his company was completely hacked. Well, his Office 365 was completely hacked. And he just came out and said, like, even if you should see it as I'm a relatively experienced person in this area, yet still it happened to me. And I think that works best, but it's not that easy.
No.
Now, I had a conversation, a podcast recording with a customer in the Netherlands. That customer was hacked, was a logistic company. The impact was huge. Also in public, it was in the newspaper and so on. And afterwards, they shared their experience, what they have done wrong up front. And other companies can use that. So the openness of these kind of things, I think it is there more and more, but I think we need to take a next step on that. But not only in the Netherlands, but how is that in Germany?
Yeah, I think in all the industry, it's also that we have to get these talks on another level. I think on a technical level, from admin to admin, architect to architect, everybody's on the same page. We all want to have more secure systems. We all want to have the resources to fix long-standing issues in the environments. But we have to get this know-how and the need to change something that is not really sexy to management. So they can approve budgets that are not for some new tooling or just some new project that will be flashy, but it's something we must get our infrastructure in order. We must do the basics. And that's something where we currently still, I think, have an issue because it's in many cases such a technical discussion for a more broader problem.
I guess. And if we look back, phishing, malware, that's coming. If we look at the future, is that something you also mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, the vulnerability thing is just gonna, in a way, explode. So if we look back in the future, back like 15 years ago, we all remember that, well, around this table, we all remember that we had a time when people would actually test every anti-malware definition update. I mean, we would first roll it out to IT, see if nothing breaks, and then we would decide to roll it out to everyone. Sorry. Okay. Fair enough. So we had a conversation about this with a lot of customers, and I actually higher management was even relatively easy in this case because I had the chance of speaking to risk management. So a big enough company to have a risk management. And I just asked them that, like, if you have two risks to choose from, do you want to have a potentially 2-hour downtime controlled by your IT department? Or do you want to have a 3-month downtime controlled by a third party? And that was like an easy conversation from that perspective. But it is something that we grew up with, which is we will never install a bad patch. We will never ever break production. That's like this biggest mistake an admin can do is fail with a patch and production goes down. But people don't see the bigger picture. Now, bigger enterprises have an average of 20,000 patches to install per year if we count all the devices as well. Now, Windows had more than 1,200 patches per year. So our numbers are now bigger than they were back then for the anti-malware definition file upgrades. So no one in this industry nowadays tests anti-malware definition upgrades. They just flow through. Do they fail sometimes? Yes. We've had cases where Office was blocked by Windows Defender. We have cases where certain file types were blocked by Windows Defender. Yet we still take the risk. So I'm seriously saying that we are going towards that time where I have to start printing out t-shirts that say patch more, test less, and just get that info there. I mean, I have a rule for my customers. You have any critical patches or patching anything that has a public IP address, you patch on days 2 or 3. And if you have a Fortinet firewall, then you patch on days that start with a T: Tuesday, Thursday, today, and tomorrow.
Today and tomorrow. Yeah, but on the other hand, that's what the future probably will bring. But if you see now, we had a discussion with Sergey and Mike. Organizations are still having the baseline not at that level, like enable multi-factor patching, all that kind of stuff. We need to do that as a first step, and then we can look further. But we need to take that step.
I just said today on stage, I feel old and boring because I go on a big stage, everyone expecting fancy artificial intelligence demos, and my main message is like, you need backups and patching. Yeah. And that's been there for like freaking 30 years that you've needed backups and patching. Yeah. So it sounds boring, but you're correct. Yeah. It's the basics that we have to get first.
Sergey was telling, if he does a red teaming or a pen testing or whatever, the way he comes in is always one of the basics.
Yeah.
So we need to do that. What look at tomorrow? Another session.
Oh, my favorite session is tomorrow. So that's basically how to get rid of admin rights. So I've been doing that for 21 years now. As a main consulting business that I do is principle of least privilege. And sometimes we do get a good draw from the hype that we get, because now that zero trust is just being the worst name in the history of IT, but still zero trust is like everywhere, and one of the core 3 concepts is principle of least privilege. So that just, I love the topic. The only problem is that I have to talk about Microsoft's EPM.
You submitted yourself. So.
I know. I added the Intune word in the name so that I get in.
Is that's
the trick. I'm good at coming up with names.
Yeah. One question. We were, Fabian and I were at Bluehead last, when was it?
March.
In March. Dave Weston was on stage to talk about Windows 11 adminless. It's in preview, I guess, in the new Windows 11. How does that feel with least privilege?
It feels really good. I mean, there are core changes in the Windows operating systems coming in the future. Now the only problem is that now that we need to fix things now with the EPM, for example, that's the same thing, is that we kind of have 2 different competing paths going on, because the other one is kind of waiting if Windows itself would heal the problem, or if we actually need an EPM solution to get better. There's like competing paths on the same solution, or the same goal. So, but I mean, that's the core thing. Even the patching thing. I mean, if you have a company that doesn't patch at all, but has no admin, and you have a company that has full admin and patches everything, still after 2 weeks, that company with no admin rights and no patching is actually more secure statistically. So these all kind of tie together, and everything relies on the fact that you get rid of those admin rights. The book from 1993 for Windows NT 3.1 says that the security subsystem design concepts were built not to withstand the use of local admin rights. There's an input mechanism like every other system. There's an input mechanism that can write configuration, and there's a mechanism that can consume configuration. But this is just people do whatever. Today after the session, it's like, hey, we heard we have a new name for Windows Defender. No, Microsoft Defender Microsoft Defender Application Control. So it was device guard, then it became Windows Defender Application Control, then it became Microsoft Defender Application Control, and the day before yesterday it became App Control for businesses. So everyone is there like, oh, can we use that? I was like, why do you want to use it? Well, because then we can be admins. Like,
you always have a nice slide about that, that it's not a human right, the admin right.
Yeah, admin rights are not human rights.
Yeah.
That's because of Germany. So that's I got that from Germany. I had to go to, I have company-owned devices, and I'm telling end users that you can't be admins on your own computers. I mean, company-owned computers. You cannot be admin. And I had to go to this thing called Work Council. Which I was just like, that was a dramatic experience for me. I mean, in Finland, the company says what company does with company computers, even if we pay taxes for it to be able to use it. But I mean, that was honestly like Uber. I was touching something holy. I was limiting the privilege. In Finland, you have to go through a work council if you fire 1,000 people. So yeah, it's a very personal thing. I was actually one of the best one I've ever had was I was hired by a Finnish company that had already taken away admin rights, and they paid me 1 day consulting fee to go in front of their 400 employees in an auditorium and tell them that it was my idea.
You take the blame.
Yeah.
Good win.
Yeah. I was just like, hey, I'll be a scapegoat for money because I can just go in and say it was my idea and then run away. Because the old IT department is so afraid.
Yeah.
But was it not also your story which you told a few years back at one of the sessions that you can switch just to power users, then they accept it more or better?
Yeah, that's a mind trick. Like security is 25% technology and 75% psychology. So what I did with you have these poisoning people as well. You know, every project has this someone who takes it as their responsibility to go around people and tell that, like, if we're deploying Windows 11, he goes around in the cafeteria and says that Windows 11 sucks. Like, you should know that it's so bad. Yeah. You always have this one. So when we had these, then Power Users Group has had no privileges or permissions assigned to it since Vesta. So it's an empty group which has absolutely no use. So then I just went to these people and just whispered into their ears that you're so talented with your computer that I actually made you a power user, but you can't tell anyone. And then they feel proud again and they're like, okay, I'm better than others, so I'm fine with this. Yeah. I will not share a soul. So yeah, but it's psychology, and there's a human factor in everything. It's like you said, it's not just educating management, middle management, security people, it's the end users are in this game always as well. We lost more money last year than ransomware. We lost more money to romance scams from Finland. Apparently Finnish men are so lousy that all Finnish women want to marry ex-Marines fighting in Iraq and now retiring and willing to be marrying people and moving to Finland. So I have to probably take the blame then. But yeah, it is still...
Probably. But yeah, such a lot of information coming through, but still... we talked already about the basics. And if you see, what did you tell in your session to the audience?
About basics today or in general?
In general.
No, in general, I did a Sentinel session on analytic rules and customization, because in the end we have, as you said, Thomas, a knowledge gap everywhere in the security space, but also in the IT as a whole. And making alerts better helps everybody, because it makes your analysts can work more efficient, more faster in this regards, and building good analytic rules and investing the time to not only have great detections, this is good, but also showing what those detections have as an impact. This is really important.
Yeah, there are two things to keep in mind, in my opinion. Have the basics in Ordnung, as they are calling that in Germany. But also, on top of that, get the information about the system to see what happens and do things with stuff, incidents. You need to follow up. And if you don't do that, you probably have an issue later on.
There's a core message there which is very difficult for us in this business, even myself, which is that what I'm trying to tell everyone is that people in this business should remember that your job during the past few years has completely changed, because everyone, including me, I went into a customer and said that our job is to stop the enemy. But nowadays, our job is no more to stop the enemy, our job is to slow them down. I mean, there will be someone somehow getting into your environments. You're not going to get into 100% protection, which means that we have to invest in that possibility. So on average, it takes 2 hours for an attacker to get from the first touch of the systems to full admin, domain admin or global admin. And that 2 hours, our job in this industry is to extend that 2 hours as much as we can so that our security operations center can catch the bad guys before they escalate. But it feels bad because I've always went into a customer saying, I'm here to make sure no one gets in. And now I go in and say, it sounds like bad marketing. I go in and I say, hey, my job is not to actually stop the enemy. I'm here just to slow them down. And they're like, what the hell, we'll take the next one then.
Yeah, assume breach is not a marketing slogan.
No, absolutely.
Maybe we have to talk to the bicycle companies, bicycle lock companies, because in the end, they are in the same industry. It's not about having a lock that can protect your bike forever, but for like 5 minutes, and that is enough.
Exactly. That's a very good analogy, yeah.
Okay. Any other things to bring on the table?
Well, we don't have like 6 hours, so I'll never stop talking until you say stop.
I think one thing that is really interesting to see, Sami has stressed how important patching is. And I think many companies currently are not even aware how bad their situation sometimes is. So they think we are doing patching. Yeah, of course we do that. And then you roll out a product like MDE and you get information on the real information on the systems, what is installed, what is the latest patch. And sometimes it's like this system didn't have a patch for like 2 years because maybe SCCM agent is broken or the reporting is off. Something is there. And to get this visible to the customers, it's a real eye-opener for many of them when we start those projects. And in the end, it's an EDR solution, but the TVM part of it is really important, and it helps in the long run to get those customers in a safer place.
It should be a requirement for every enterprise, and maybe also the smaller companies.
Yeah. And I think one thing to that is that whatever you think about the institutions that build our guidelines and whatever, but if you really look at CIS, Center for Internet Security, for 2 decades, when they had the 20 most important security controls for any company, it would start with principle of least privilege, binary control, batching, like these technical solutions, MFA, whatever. And now, for the past 2 years, they've only had 18, but number 1 is up-to-date hardware inventory, and number 2 is up-to-date software inventory. And of course, the analogy is perfect. You can't secure unless you know what to secure. And that makes perfect sense, but most customers don't think about it. They actually do not have visibility. So if I ask them, are you fully patched? They might think they are, but very rarely would they actually know that they are.
Or define fully patched.
Yeah.
They think only about Windows because Windows needs to be patched, and we've taken care of that via WSUS or WUFB, but they totally forget their apps, which are also vulnerable, and then vulnerability management kicks into play.
Yeah, how many big breaches during the past few years you've heard where actually Windows would be the way that they got in? They're like, we got supply chain attacks. Those all attacks are actually attacking an application component, which is a third-party component. Windows has problems when you get in. That's what I tell people all the time, is your first barrier you need to protect is Linux. Because active devices use Linux, and that's the one that gets the first point, but that doesn't get you on the news. For you to cause real havoc around the company, you need Windows, as bad as it sounds. But it's more about the operating system weaknesses then.
Yeah. What we always try with the customers to do security journey. So at the end, they often buy products because there are nice marketing slogans. So we say, okay, you have a lot of products, but you have not really realized something. So what we try to do first is to do the basic stuff, what we said. But this also includes processes. So what you said, hardware inventory, having all an ITSM tool, having virus scan correctly deployed, working on these update mechanisms, and then talking about EDR, post-breach monitoring. Because if you start too early with that one, you just get a lot of lists of vulnerabilities. You don't know how to start. You are starting doing manually, then thinking first about a process to do it automatically, or that you really are doing it as a core of your business. And the problem, what most of the customers have, installing a product, enabling it is simple. Creating a detection rule, simple. But really solving the basic things takes a lot of time. And that's, I think, a big problem, especially we don't have enough resources most. Yeah.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Yeah, we can talk about it in hours, I guess, about these kind of topics. So
maybe next year.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Next year, Sami will be back.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Okay, let's meet up, and the stream will be on tomorrow again. We will be doing interviews with other people.
Yeah, this was the last one.
That was the last one for today. Luckily. So
you've done them all.
My feet are hurting now. But tomorrow we will be back, and then with other interviews, with other community stage presentations. So let's see what happens then. Thank you for watching, and see each other tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.